Hello, everyone. I'm here again today to talk some more science with you. So, today we're going to be looking at some dinosaurs and some fossils, and we're going to be thinking back to some of the things that we've already learned about inheritance of traits, animal traits, and how the traits benefit each animal. We're also going to be thinking about what we learned last week with Charles Darwin and how he suggested that in nature, animals with the best traits will survive long enough to pass on those very good traits, and the animals with the not so great traits would eventually die out because it would not survive long enough to pass on its traits to its young. So here, before we begin talking about fossils today, I wanted to talk about some of these dinosaurs that we see here and some of the traits that they have. So first we have the Stegosaurus. The Stegosaurus had a good tail. The tail was used for defense, and it was able to ward off some of the prey. So it was an herbivore. It ate plants, and the obvious trait that a Stegosaurus has is the spikes or the plates. So the plates served a couple different functions. One function of the plates was that it was for display. So what that means is that it was to make it appear bigger than it was, maybe more dangerous than it was. It was not a predator, so it had to make itself look bigger to scare off predators. That's one function of the plates. Now, another function of the plates, whenever you see an animal with plates or even spikes on their back or anything like that, is that the plates deflect the sunlight. So it actually keeps the dinosaur cooler so it wouldn't overheat. So the Stegosaurus would cool itself down with those plates. It would sort of deflect the sunlight off of its back to keep it cool. Uh, Remember that reptiles of any kind are cold-blooded. That means that their blood temperature changes with how warm it is outside. So when it's very warm, it could overheat if its blood gets too warm. And if it's cooler outside, the animal almost stiffens up and freezes up. Like the blood almost not freezes, but it gets so cool that it stiffens and the animal can't move around as much. Next, we have here the Shantelnosaurus. Okay, now I don't know much about this animal, but I can tell by the way that it stands that it was probably pretty quick. It could probably run pretty fast because it could run on those big, powerful back legs, but also could use its front legs to help speed it along. Like if you look at the Spinosaurus, it wouldn't have been as fast probably because it was only be able to use those two legs. Next, we have the Argentinosaurus, and this one's obvious, okay? Whenever you see an animal or a dinosaur with that incredibly long neck, like a giraffe, it's obvious that that adaptation was the long neck because the animals with the longer neck could get more leaves off the trees to eat, and then it would then therefore survive longer and pass those traits on until eventually the Argentinosaurus or the giraffe or whatever animal it might be had this incredibly long neck as its beneficial trait. Okay, then we have the Spinosaurus. The Spinosaurus has the spine. It may have also been used for keeping it cool. Again, whenever you have that spike or those spines, it helps to deflect the sunlight. That's one thing. Again, it could have made it appear bigger. That is what some scientists believe, that the bigger the spikes, the bigger the spine, the more dangerous it looked. Now, the Spinosaurus, like a crocodile, was both travel. It lived both on land and in the water. So it had very dense bones, very thick bones, and the density of the bones, the thickness, helped to keep it balanced in the water. And the tail was used sort of like a paddle to help it travel through the water. And then finally, we have the Triceratops, which was another herbivore, meaning it only ate plants like the Stegosaurus and the Argentinosaurus. And it was actually prey for the T-Rex, so it had to develop defense. And you can see that the way that the head is shaped with the horns and the spikes, that helped to defend it. But also, it is believed that the horns if you like deer, was used to for one triceratops to sort of battle another triceratops, and sort of they butt heads and they see which one is stronger, and that one becomes the leader of the herd. All right, and then you can see again, if I mentioned this, I don't know, this is a person that's this is one person, so you can see one line is 1 meter, so the average person is about 2 meters tall, and you can see how big these dinosaurs were. All right, so again, dinosaurs lived 231 million years ago. So dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. That means that they were on Earth for about 180 or so years um, before they went extinct. That's a long time. Modern humans, the way we know humans now, started emerging about 2 million years ago only, and they lived for 180 million years. So they were on Earth for much longer than humans have been on Earth. So how can we know so much about them? Well, we know because of fossils, and scientists have collected evidence or proof that they existed and that they looked the way they looked. So if you look here, fossils are pieces of animals, plants, or other organisms that have been preserved over time. Preserved means saved or kept. Fossils are a major source of information about dinosaurs. Paleontology is the study of fossils over geologic time, over the Earth's history. Paleontologists study how fossils are formed. So we're going to learn about 3 different ways that fossils can form. One is imprints, okay? We'll talk about that. Another is preservation. If you think of a bee or any insect, ancient insects that have been trapped in amber or in hardened tree sap, because they're trapped, they are able to preserve. They're able to keep their form. And finally, mineralization, which has to do with rocks forming around the bones. Okay, so first let's talk about imprints. So suppose you went for a walk in the snow. You leave behind a trail of your footprints. Well, that's what imprints are. They're impressions on the ground. They're imprints or footprints or body prints on hardened rock. If the temperature suddenly dropped below freezing for a long time, the snow would turn into ice. Your footprints would be preserved in the ice. So if it was soft snow and you printed in, but then it got really, really cold and it froze to ice, that hardened imprint would be there. And that's sort of what happens with the rock. Okay? Some organisms left imprints of their entire bodies. Here's how this happens. The organism dies. An organism is any living thing. The organism's body decomposes, leaving empty space in the sediment. So as the body decomposes or decays or fades away, it leaves that imprint in the dirt or in the rock. Sediment is rock. The only thing left is the imprint of what the animal looked like. So this is called a mold. So when you have an imprint, it's a mold. Think about if you bit down on a piece of gum and then that gum hardened, you'd have a mold of your teeth bites. Preservation is when an entire organism is found in the same condition as it was when it died. It's called a preserved fossil. This gnat, okay, sometimes these pictures do not match up on this slideshow. So anyway, there's supposed to be a picture of a gnat that flew into some amber or sticky tree sap and it got stuck there. So I don't have a picture of that right now, but it would be a full preserved gnat in the tree sap, and it would be hardened around it, and you would be able to see the entire animal. The soft parts would not fade away or decay. So do you think paleontologists can learn more from a preserved fossil or a mold? Okay, well, they can learn a lot from both, but you can learn a lot more from a preserve because all the soft parts are still there. The entire body is intact. In fact, as some of these ice caps are melting around the world, where scientists are starting to find full organisms, full animals preserved. There was an ancient wolf found not too long ago where the fur and the skin and everything was still there, and the soft organs on the inside too. So you can learn a lot more from those. Okay, and the final is mineralization. Mineralization is a process that creates a replica of hard body parts. It is what we generally think about when we hear the term fossils. So the bones are there and the sediment mineralizes around the bone, and then we get the fossils preserved like you see here in these pictures. Okay, and we're going to go more into this tomorrow, but that is it for today. Just wanted to introduce you to the three types of fossils. So again, we have imprints, preservation. If you imagine this worm being trapped in tree sap, it would preserve all the as it's whole. And then finally, mineralization, when the rock and sediment or dirt hardens around the bone and it preserves it that way. All right, that is it for today, and I hope you enjoyed learning about this, and we'll continue learning more about fossils tomorrow. All right, have a great day.